Hey guys, so this is Module 2 discussing the marginalization of ESL students, student athletes, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer community, and the veterans. So starting with the ESL students, what I found most salient is in the book it talks about the emerging evidence of gaps in what immigrant learners intend to achieve and the actual attainment of their academic and career goals. It talked about how a low percentage of non-credit students are actually transitioning to credit classes, and those that do are very successful, but it is still a very low percentage. So it's hard to interpret and determine any type of program improvement without really knowing all the complexities involved in making them successful. So my question is, how do we bridge this gap and how can we improve going forward? It looks like there does need to be more research done out of the 17 people that they interviewed, how we can build from that and try to understand exactly how to bridge this gap and not only uh, more transition into the credit classes to improve that percentage. In the discussion of cultural capital, it did get me to thinking about my own and to address the questions that were asked in the discussion video that you put up. The interviews showed that the immigrants with stronger cultural capital were more prone to success and to transition into credit courses than those that did not have such a background. So for me personally, I went to college because there really wasn't any other option. I went to a small private school, and we had 100% graduation rate for pretty much ever. And then usually about 98% of those do attend college. The only reasons that a student might not is to go maybe to work in their family business, or they decide to join the service. So basically, I was trained to think that college was the next step for me, no questions asked. And I was constantly encouraged by my peers, my family, and my teachers. So I guess I kind of developed a sense of motivation to move forward and continue on. But this was so important in my experience at Georgia Southern. I chose public relations after I changed my major several times, and it was basically because I wanted a combination of writing and media and advocating, and I basically went to my advisor, and that's what she suggested. So basically, it's not considered as important as engineering or nursing might be, but I was lucky to still have support because it was something I was passionate about. And then this also was mainly a woman-filled major, so I guess I didn't feel like I had to overly work to prove myself in an environment full of males. If anything, there was more camaraderie and enjoyment with my peers, and I even made lifetime friendships from it. So since this was the way I was socially conditioned, I can't really imagine anything else, but it does put into perspective those that don't come from such a background, and it definitely makes me appreciate it, and basically sad for those who isn't like that at all. Like the book talks about some of the immigrants who don't have that. Um, for the student athlete chapter, basically it talks about how people have a vision that comes to mind, a stereotype, such as a dumb jock or overprivileged, but they're actually underrepresented and they face microaggressions. The example that the book gave that I found most interesting was how a coach can encourage an athlete to enroll in a class that might be easier or a guaranteed A, instead of challenging them to enroll in something in their academic program that would actually fulfill them more educationally. And the hidden message is that basically he doesn't believe that he's smart enough to pass the class, and his athletic ability there is more important than his education. I think this would be interesting to dive further into because I feel like it probably does go on a good bit, and these students are definitely, marginalized in this way. Um, just to see how much it does occur and to what extent, and also how this affects their social perceptions of themselves, because that's probably not ever voiced or documented or anything like that. Um, for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered, queer community, what I feel most disturbing about this chapter, it really is just the lack of literature and information out there on how to handle this group at the community college level, and basically the lack of resources and places that are available for them. The story of the advisor telling the student that he could not advise him due to his homosexuality affecting his religious beliefs really disturbed me. That person probably should never have been hired. I understand ethics and having your religious beliefs, but in this case, the student, was victimized, and the advisor should have put those religious beliefs aside and, just done his job. So basically, while there is information out there, I feel like it's narrow in scope. It deals more with your four-year universities, and the majority of cases that are documented are just of really negative context. There's not a lot of positive things out there that we can refer back on and learn from or build from. I was shocked to know that only 7 of 219 colleges that offer a safe zone or programs for this group are community colleges. So that means that 212, I guess, are more of your four-year universities, and then, a measly 7 is community colleges. That was really disturbing. That's quite an outstanding difference. What I did gather, and this is pretty much self-explanatory, in a bigger city and at a bigger school, on a bigger educational scale, this group is more likely to be accepted and less prone to marginalization, but it should not be this way. I like how at the end of the chapter it discussed community colleges, how they should include a digital approach, so that when this group visits the website, they feel included and welcome. Just by framing some type of institutionalized statement of inclusion and acceptance may sway a student to come there when they wouldn't have otherwise. Seeing that right off the bat would probably be a huge turning point in their decision of, where to go. In the discussion of the veterans, obviously it's clear with the post 9/11 GI Bill, it's a changing demographic. A lot more people are deciding, to get an education, and it's a different culture that we need to understand, but it can be kind of hard to do so. Um, College is basically seen as their big transition point, and I think it's so super important that their needs are met as specifically and ideally as possible. I like how you discussed in your introduction that there's much involvement on the spouse's end, because this is something that I have dealt with personally in my job. Because of the FERPA laws, we're not allowed to give out that information, and it's hard for them to maybe understand that. We constantly receive phone calls and emails of spouses wanting or seeking information, and I think it's because they're more so the ones who have always taken care of like the business affairs in the home. The husband's often away training or on deployment, so it's left up to them to handle things like that, and that's just all they've ever known. So it is often hard to try and explain this to them, and why we can't give them, this type of information without them getting frustrated or angry. And I think this is something that can definitely be better avoided if there's just more educational resources out there for these spouses to learn about these laws and how it works in the educational setting. And that could be done through literature, at meeting groups, the home base, the educational centers, support groups, and things like that. But from the video, I was better enlightened on exactly what these veterans feel as they enter college. I guess I never really thought about just how overwhelming it can be. It talks about how they're so used to be told what specifically to do, and their words and actions are so scripted. So when they come here, they need as much specific direction as they can get and as much help as they can get, because it's totally new for them. So I think it's important that we as civilians, not just faculty and staff, but we're aware of how to respond and react to their readaptation and transitioning as well, and that we can be as helpful because, it's something that we may be more used to doing. And I specifically like how BCC led a panel for faculty to get feedback on how to deal with veterans, and they kind of covered issues of PTSD, which is huge among veterans. A lot of veterans do suffer from that. So that's a great thing that can be done really in community colleges across the board to better help suit their needs. And, I like how the guy that runs the Veterans Lounge is actually a veteran himself, so he can personally relate. And I think it's good that a lot of those jobs, it is a requirement that the director is a veteran because, they know how to tell these students, what to do without offending them. They've been there. They have something in common. So the lounge that BCC has is definitely something that community colleges, if the need is there, could benefit from establishing. I feel like it would add a lot of rapport and professionalism to community colleges. It would probably entice a lot of veterans to come to that school. And they say that that is something that is expanding, right now, so that's awesome. Going forward, the resources that were given in Chapter 8, they have been noted. I've made several notes of things to go and check out, and I'll definitely be using those for future referencing in my profession and probably in this class. But that's all I have for you guys this week. I hope you have a great rest of the week. Thanks.